Welcome back to That Rugby Podcast. You are joined by myself and Hughesy.
G'day.
Wow,
Hey,
what a week of footy, my friend. What a week of footy. I'm repping the Moana Pacifica jersey, but it's for our Pacifica brethren because I don't have a Druida one, but I'll try and get a Druida one and a holder one because of what a weekend it was.
Yeah, an incredible week and not so great for our team. So just give me a second. I think I've got a jersey here. Just give me a second here, and I'll wrap one for our Fijian brethren. No, that's not it. That's my Western Force jersey. Don't want to wear that one. Melbourne Rebels jersey. No, don't want to wear that one. Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
That's a good look on you, my friend. For those who listen to us, he's got a brown paper bag tied around him with the word Fiji on it.
It's a Fijian Drua jersey. Okay, thank you.
Custom made Fijian jersey.
It's a bespoke, reusable, environmentally friendly Fijian Drua jersey.
Nice. Are you going to have that on for the whole episode?
Oh, no. Probably until I get sick of holding it up. Because it's not attached to me in any way. I'll see how long I last with it, though. You know?
But yes, I mean...
My girlfriend makes me wear a paper bag over my head anyway, so this is nothing new for me.
Nothing new.
Only when we're out in public, though, so no one knows who I am.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'd do the same.
You did at the rugby, actually.
Yeah, I did. I put a bag over your head and only let you out when you needed to breathe.
So not the best week for our teams, but I think fair to say a great week for Super Rugby overall.
Yeah, I couldn't argue more with that. Obviously, our team's both losing, and your Waratahs against the Rebels, my Hurricanes against the Blues, and we'll touch on those games later. But for the competition, stunning round, I would say.
Pretty amazing, yeah.
I may have been bold enough to say we said it was going to be stock standard round with, the Crusaders going over to Fiji and beating the Drua. But I did state, and I've chucked, I chuck a lot of things out there. There's no lies. Like my hit rate may be low, but I do sometimes chuck things out there and it sticks.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott,
and I miss a lot. But sometimes I do make a shot. And I made a shot last year when I said, watch out for the Cowboys because Todd Payton's a good enough coach to do things. And he got them there. And I've said it again. I said, going to Fiji is no easy place to play. And the Crusaders went to Fiji and found that out firsthand. So, I mean, let's start with that game. 25-24. Drua over the Crusaders, and to be fair,
amazing.
Should have been more because they were up 22-12 at a point, or 22-12 at a point. Crusaders, I think it was like 6 minutes left, worked their way back in, scored a try with about 3 minutes left to make it 22-24. Fiji managed, no, actually it must have been less. It must have been a minute left on the clock because dropped the kick off the Crusaders, and the Fijian Drua managed to get a penalty from the ensuing phase play, and then a clutch kick. I mean, it's not a big kick, a 25-metre kick straight in front, but a clutch kick to win the Fijian Drua, one of the most famous victories ever. And I want to say there's a lot of talk, and someone commented on one of our Instagram posts is that, this was a B team Crusaders team. It wasn't. Yes, they were missing Richie Mo'unga, missing Will Jordan, who are, I think, by far their two best players, but they had Sam Whitelock, they had Sever Reese, Braden Enoa, I believe Blackadder, they had George Bower. There was enough All Blacks there to get the job done, and job they did not get.
Exactly, and worth noting, it was Kemu Valetini who kicked the winning penalty goal. Debut game as well. So even though it's an easy kick, in your debut game, your first game in Super Rugby, and he's 28 years old, right? So he's had a bit of a journey to get actually even into the Super Rugby level. So you can imagine the immense pressure on him there. Younger brothers of Wallaby, very successful rugby player. You've taken the longer road to get up to the Super Rugby stage, and then the entire rugby world's eyes are on you when you have the chance to beat the Crusaders in Fiji. And he did not blink. Which, they're only automatic if you kick them. They're only 100% if you kick them. So, very, very well done there. Look, everyone loves to see the Crusaders lose. We said this in round one. Everyone loves to see the Crusaders lose. So it's a great great week when the Crusaders lose. And the atmosphere in Fiji. I mean, as we sort of said last week, particularly yourself, it was just amazing. There are people holding up children over the fence to see, people going nuts in the stand, just absolutely packed out, and incredible atmosphere.
I want to say, someone I know, obviously, I've said this before, Super Round should go to Fiji. They should do a Super Round in Fiji. Someone's actually tweeted it, and maybe I need to get on Twitter because someone's tweeted it and said there should be a Buller Round where they play 3 games at where they played that one. Sorry, I don't know where it is. And then 3 games in Suva, and it would over the Easter holiday. And I think that just, you get World Rugby, and even if they don't do it next year, they should definitely plan for it, upgrade the stadiums, like, spend some World Rugby money that it makes, upgrade the stadiums and make it a big event yearly. You would get international tourists going to Fiji, I reckon, to watch a Super Round or a Buller Round. I just think that they deserve it. Like, everything they've shown us so far. I also want to give a massive, I guess, I don't even know, praise to Fijian Rugby. When Fijian Rugby entered the NRC comp with, I don't know if it was called the Drua team then, but it was the Fijian team that they entered that comp. After about 3 years, they were competitive. And we're seeing this second year. Someone said it, it's surprising how long it took New Zealand Rugby or Super Rugby, Sansa, to get involved with Fiji. And the fact that it's taken this long is a little bit disgusting because they should have had a team much earlier than this. That's all I'm saying.
100%. And you actually said last year, like, it was probably going to be a year or two before the Fijian Drua and Moana Pacific started becoming competitive. And we've seen it this year, right? The opening game against each other was amazing. Against the Waratahs last week, my Waratahs, Fiji had a very strong opening 60 minutes, in fact, where it was all tied up at 17 apiece, and then sort of a bit of an implosion and brain explosion there. The final scoreline, I think, doesn't do justice to how well Fiji played there. And now this one here, beating the Crusaders, it's just amazing stuff from the Fijian Drua. And Moana Pacifica even had a pretty close game this week against the Western Force.
Yes, they did. So let's get into the first game of the round. Was actually the Chiefs versus the Highlanders, which Chiefs took care of business, 28-7. Highlanders improved, but still, to me, a step off the mark of the New Zealand teams. We said at the start of the season, I don't think the talent's there, and I think they've shown us in this 3 games some good character to come back from 2 big drummings and compete against arguably the best team in the comp right now in the Chiefs. But I still think they're a long way off the standard of a finals team, and it still annoys me that we've got 8 teams that could make the final, because the Highlanders could start off poor again and like we saw last year, make it with a losing record.
All right, now I'm going to ask you a question, and I have seen your power rankings, and I want you to talk about this for me. Are the Highlanders the worst team in Super Rugby right now?
If they were playing Moana Pacifica tomorrow, my money would be on the Highlanders. However, through the first 3 weeks, they've looked like the worst team. Now, they've clearly had the hardest schedule, I think. Mm-hmm. But if my money was on tomorrow, I would say I would put money on the Highlanders. But to answer your question, yes, they are the worst team in the comp. From the first 3 weeks, what I've seen, they're the worst team in the comp. Even Moana Pacifica, now you look at it and you go, okay, Highlanders, and again, it's hard to compare things, but Highlanders, lost to the Crusaders by 50. Fiji just bet the Crusaders by, 1. Moana Pacifica lose to the Drua by 2. Force, Moana Pacifica lose by 3. I think, the way I've said it is the only way I can explain it. That you tell me who you're picking in a game tomorrow, I'm picking the Highlanders. But to answer your question, I think Moana Pacifica are a better team than the Highlanders from those first 3 games.
Yeah. Their performances in the first 3 weeks have been better than the Highlanders' performance. But if it was a one-on-one matchup, it might be the Highlanders would probably have the victory over. I guess I would also take into account where they play. If they're playing in Dunedin, I would say Highlanders. If they're playing, I don't even know where Moana Pacifica's home stadium is. I would maybe swing a little bit to Moana Pacifica, but I think yeah, I would say 1-on-1, Highlanders probably take the cake there, but I think it would be very close. I think it would be very close.
But saying that, Moana Pacific again, we can see can upset teams. Other than looking at the schedule at the moment, I would. The Force haven't looked great, but they've won 2 games, so I'd go the Force probably over the Highlanders. I really still don't like the Reds, but even the Reds looked a lot better improved the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Drua, on their day, I think easily beat the Highlanders. And then you look at the Tars, who are the next team I still think have got more talent than the Highlanders. So realistically, you're looking at the Force, Moana Pacifica, and those 2 teams, and that's where the Highlanders are at the moment. That's where they're sitting around that 10th mark, which I don't think they'll make the finals. I really don't from the start. Second game, shall I let you take it away, my friend?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, speaking of the Waratahs, Rebels versus Waratahs. Now, as a Waratahs fan, this game was hard to watch because it was really a lot of silly Waratahs mistakes and a little bit of unlucky refereeing. I might chuck that out there. But there was overall, though, I still think the Rebels deserve to win this game. And I think that's a good thing. And that's why I said at the top of this episode, it was a good round for Super Rugby, because even though the Waratahs lost, the Rebels are looking, they've looked decent over the first couple of weeks, and particularly this performance against the Waratahs now as well. The Waratahs have just spent 2 weeks in Melbourne. That's enough to sap the will to live from any regular human being. So there's that to take into account as well. Like, you couldn't even go back home, see your families, remind yourself what it's like to have a coffee with real milk and not oat milk.
Hey, nothing wrong with an oat milk flat white, my friend. I'm an oat milk guy. I'm an oat milk guy.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it, but you don't want people to look at you like you've just murdered Bambi when you ask for a regular milk cappuccino.
Fair enough.
I'm not committing genocide by having cow milk. And a lot of people, that's Melbourne for you. Anyway, but the Rebels actually looked like a decent team, which is great to see after being a bit of a joke in the competition the last few years. I think the Waratahs are keenly feeling the loss of Angus Bell. I think Tom Lammett's doing a good job, but it's just Angus Bell just provides so much to that team. I think as well, the backline has still got some work to do to mold into what it should be. There's a lot of, like, Ben Donaldson would have been all off season playing. He was practicing fly half, and now he's become the starting fullback. Tane Edmed is very young and has still got a lot of growing to do. Still a couple of mistakes in his game. And Max Jorgensen's 18, 19. So it's a very youthful backline. It's still got a lot of work to do to get up to speed. The forward pack is solid-ish, but it's just they've got some growing to do still. I think myself and a few other people were a bit too high on the Waratahs based on sort of the way they closed out last year. And a little bit of roster turnover, a little bit of youth still in this team. They still need to grow. And so they're not going to be one of the top teams like one of the top 4 teams by the end of the season maybe. At least they don't look at it at this stage. They still have to grow into that. Like, we might think they'll finish strong and wind up in that position, but they've got some growing to do between now and then. Luckily, it's a long season.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about your Waratahs, to be honest. I look at it, and like you've said many things, I don't think their stars have fired yet, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Like, I don't think we watched the Brumbies game, they dropped enough chances to win that game. So you take that and you go, yeah, there's positives there. The Drua, they put together one decent 40-minute performance. I know it was against 13 men and some mind bogglers, but yeah, there was some good performance. There was a good enough performance for me to say that they've got it in their locker. And like you said, against the Rebels, I've picked the Rebels as a top team, and I think their first 3 rounds have shown me that they're a good team. So I think they'll get into it. It's going to be interesting now how they come back. They've shown as well which has impressed me. The 2 games that they've lost, they've scored on the bell to give themselves a bonus point, and especially against that Rebels one there, they took away a bonus point, which impresses me. That's the never give up attitude you'll get with Darren Coleman teams. So
100%.
I'm not too worried. I think they'll get themselves into a playoff spot, and they're a dangerous team because I think if they get it going and momentum, like we've said with these rules, they're a hard team to stop. So I'm not too worried. Maybe 2-3 more losses. I know they've got the Hurricanes, and then I don't know who they've got after that, but a couple of hard games. I think they might even have the Chiefs. So you want to take at least one more game out of there. But but it's going to be a tough ask. But yeah, I'm not too worried about the Tars.
Yeah, look, they've got time to grow. Yeah, you're right. The next two are going to be tough: Hurricanes and Chiefs. And I think they're playing.
Hurricanes
they are playing,
is in Wellington.
Yeah, I was going to say is in Wellington. They've got the Chiefs at home, but that's still going to be a tough, very tough ask, given how the Chiefs have looked. But yeah, they have time to grow. And yeah, look, a game against when are they? Who do they play after the Chiefs? They play the Brumbies. So a rematch against the Brumbies would be so. Yeah, they've got 3 tough games in a row.
So yeah,
against 3 of the top teams in competition, and then after that they've got a break. Then they've got the Force, who they should win. The Blues is another tough one. Highlanders, they should win that one.
Before we go too deep into this, before we go too deep into your Waratahs season, so the next 3 games, let's just focus on that, and then they get the break. Is that right?
Yes, they get the break. So they've got the Hurricanes, the Chiefs, and the Brumbies.
The way I see this, the Hurricanes, Chiefs, and Brumbies, if they want to be a top 4 team, they've got to win 3 games. If they want to be a top 8 team, they've got to win 2 or 1. If they are going to struggle to make the top 8, they won't win any. Again, they can still make the top 8 without winning any, but they need to take at least 1 or 2 to go. 2, they go 5th, 6th. 1, they go 7th, 8th. All 3, they can still be a top 4 team in my eyes.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
I mean, next 3 games important for them. Not the end of the world if they lose all of them, because they can still come back. Again, 8 teams make the playoffs. Stupid rule, but hey, it is what it is. Hurricanes versus Blues. Obviously, Hurricanes my team. I'm not overly disappointed. A shocking first half. What I'm actually really interested in, and I don't know how to say this. I don't know if the Blues will be more disappointed actually in this result. They got the win in Wellington Country, fine, but being up 22, I think it was 7 at half time. To now, this is 2 games in a row. Last week, they didn't score any points in the second half. This week, they only scored 3 points in the second half. So, 80 minutes of second half footy to only score 3 points will have the Blues worried and the Blues fans worried. So the Hurricanes came back well.
Hurricanes without Artie Savia as well.
Missing the best player in the world. So I'm not...
According to the Sports Booth rankings, the number 1 Sports Booth player of the year 2022.
Exactly. So I'm not too bothered with the loss. Obviously, you want to take a win when you're playing at home against a good Blues side, and when you have opportunities to. But I can sit there and go, you know what? It doesn't crush my soul that we lost like that. I think the first half disappointing, but I think there's definitely... I'm not too worried. The Brumbies 23, the Red 17. These 2 are always derby games. What is it like? The past 8 meetings no team has won by more than 7 points.
Look, I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that because these teams both consider themselves, I guess, the cream of the crop in Australian rugby. Cream floats to the top, or in the case of the Reds, something else floats to the top. It's always a tough game. I think they match up just so well on paper when you think about these teams. Both have got young half, a fly half in the case of the Brumbies, half back in the case of the Reds.
Well, young fly half in the Reds at the moment.
That's true as well.
Tom, I can't pronounce his last name.
Look, I'm terrible with pronunciation as well, so don't ask me. You don't know how long it took me to get Nwanga Nitawase. Like that was like in the mirror.
But
like,
now look at
staring
you.
at myself. Yeah, I say it 3 times in a row when I grow an afro like him. So yeah, it's always a tough game. Like I remember a couple of years ago during COVID when they had the final against each other. That was a pretty exciting game to witness. And yeah, look, it's just the Brumbies still look like the team to beat. Narrow wins like this, you still take them, and it's they're showing that they can. They won a narrow game at the beginning of the season against the Waratahs. They had a big game against the Blues last week. Big game against the Reds here. They keep squeezing out these wins against top teams, and that's what you want. You'll take that, right?
100%. Yeah. And how do you Lynagh?
Okay, wait. I'm gonna need to say it
Type
again.
it in. Lynagh.
Oh, Lina.
Is it Lina?
Yeah, Lina, because it's Welsh, I believe.
All right. Tom Lina. Again, if we're butchering that, let us know. But,
yeah. I believe it's Lina. That's how I would pronounce it anyway. As someone with some Welsh heritage.
Yeah, no, I agree with you as well. The Brumbies finding ways to win. It's impressive at the moment, 3 from 3. Definitely putting their hands up again for another finals run.
Yes.
Last game, as you let go a yawn, last game was a yawn. It was
That's me just yawning at the Brumbies. Yeah, this is the thing about the Brumbies. It's not that exciting, the rugby. Well, some of it is, but they're just so methodical, you know. It just puts me and the opposition to sleep. But hey, they fucking win. So,
and this game could put you to sleep as well. The Force versus Moana Pacifica was a shocking game, but the Force come away with a 21-18 win.
Yeah.
I think, and again, it's not. I think Moana Pacifica are going to end up in a couple of those games where it's like a tussle because at the moment they're just not quite at that level where they can. I don't want to say big
little
teams,
things.
It's the game against the Brumbies. I reckon last year they'll have games like that where they do beat teams off skill and ability, but there'll be games where they just have to fight a win out. And Aaron Major will be coaching them to do that at the moment.
Yeah.
And they'll get there to that ability where they can beat teams. But right now it's let's make it messy and let's keep in this fight and for as long as we can. And they did well against the Force, but came up short. So what we're going to do, first 3 weeks down, we're going to give you 3 things that impressed us both. I'm going to start. Now, impressed us, just anything that stood out, should I say. I've got the Crusaders. Now, obviously, 1-2 record, 1 win, 2 losses.
Certainly stands out, you know, like like a pimple on the nose or a crab in the pubes, you know?
Exactly, yes. Now, am I worried about the Crusaders? Yes and no. Now, I think they have definitely taken a step back this year.
Yeah.
So I did the stats because what I've noticed especially is they're leaking a few more points than a Crusaders team normally would. Normally you see a Crusaders score, the opposition isn't scoring more than 20. So in 2020, to start off the season, they conceded 25 points in the first game, 15 points in the second, and 8 in the third for 48 points.
Yeah.
So 48 points across 3 games. 2021, it was 13, 16, 17 for 46 across the board. 2022, it was 32, 19, 12, which was 63. This year, it's 31, 15, 25 to mean 71 points this year. So the past 4 years, this is the most points they've gone up in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
In the first 3 rounds last year, they played the Hurricanes and gave up 32.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs this year gave up 31. They won against the Hurricanes. So they scored 42. In the second round this year, they played the Highlanders, gave up 15, played the Highlanders, gave up 19 last year. Win wasn't so impressive.
Yeah.
And then their third game, a loss against the Drua in Fiji, 25, they gave up this year. Last year it was against Moana Pacifica where they only won 33-12 after Moana Pacifica had a whole bunch of COVID issues. So obviously there's an issue there with defense. However, I look at those first 3 games last year, they won them, they weren't impressive. Like they bet the Hurricanes by 10, they bet the Highlanders by like 20 and it was an impressive win. And then they only bet Moana Pacifica by 21 after they'd come off, their issues. So I sit there and I go, we're all going to sit there and we as in Super Rugby, journalists, rugby commentators, rugby content creators, and probably write off the Crusaders. But don't yet because I think they will improve. They'll make the finals. Do not doubt that they will make the finals. And I think they can, when they get it right, we saw in last year's grand final, they'll win games. So they just need to get a couple of things right, and I think they'll be back together. So that was my first point.
Do you think, last year, obviously, they didn't play the grand final at home, but do you think this could drop them down to a 3rd or 4th place by the end of the season where for a semi-final, they're not at home?
I don't think they'll finish top 2 anymore. I think Chiefs, Brumbies, Blues are your top 2.
Top 2 contenders,
Top 2 contenders. And then I think Hurricanes, Crusaders are probably your top 4 contenders. All those 4 will be contending when it comes to the right time. So I don't think they will finish top 2. I still think you give them a one-off game, traveling anywhere. The way they travelled to that final and won, I can't not still think that they've got something in their locker. My friend, what is your first impression or first thing that stood out from the first 3 rounds?
Well, it's amazing that we were just talking about where we think teams will finish and also who's going to be our top teams. My favorite thing about these first 3 rounds has been uncertainty. has been it's four. I was about to say it's 3 syllables, but it's 4. Uncertainty. Who are the good teams? Who are the actually good teams, like the top 4, top 2 teams? Who are the bottom 4 teams? Well, we know one, really, the Highlanders. All right, maybe 2, Moana Pacifica. Right, but other than that, you've got this whole great middle of the field. There's teams that could finish anywhere.
Oh.
From 3rd to 9th, right? That's why I said earlier, the Rebels beating the Waratahs this week is a good thing for Super Rugby as a whole. It means that, hey, this might be the year the Rebels finally play in some finals. The Fijian Drua, how good can they be? They've got all the physical tools in the world, right? When you're battering Lockie Swinton into the dirt, right, you're having a pretty good go of things, right? When you're beating the Crusaders, you're doing pretty well. They've got all the physical tools, but can they put it together with the technique? Even the Queensland Reds, right? Thrashed in week 1, absolute biblical stomping of the Western Force in week 2, and then a narrow loss against the Brumbies, who are one of the top teams right now, in week 3. You could easily make an argument for why they're the 4th best team, but I could also validly hear arguments for why they're the 8th best team, right? There's even my own Waratahs, right? They're 1 and 2 at the moment. They could easily be 3 and 0 if the run of the ball was a little bit different. They could be 0 and 3. It's just so much uncertainty. The Hurricanes as well. How good can they be? How are they going to match up against some of the other really great teams as well? It's great. We saw them narrowly go down to the Blues, missing their beating heart and soul of the team, and your heart outside of your body. Yeah, Artie Savia. So it's just fantastic. Now, we talked last week about huge score lines. This week we saw a bit of a recession in the score lines, but it was still an exciting round nonetheless. Looking at this, just a rough average of points scored per game, it'd be something like, I think, around 20 points per team, so around 40 points per game would be about the average. I think, just based on my
68 was the round 2.
Yeah, so I think this week's a drop off in points. Big drop off in points, but still exciting games, which is what you want, right? So that's what I like, is that it seems like we have a competition of 10 out of 12 teams that could all validly make the finals. There's 2 teams that we probably say right now, Moana Pacifica and Highlanders, that more likely than not, they're not going to make it, right? Even the Western Force, maybe, but you never know. Like they're trending towards not making it. But
definitely,
the rest of the teams you could see making it into the finals, which is exciting. It's exciting to see that.
Yeah, I mean, funny thing is, like we say, we're counting Moana Pacifica and the Highlanders out, but because of the 8 finals, as critical as I've been, the 8 spots, anyone could still make it. Like the Highlanders could go on a run. There's a belief in me that this season could be one of those seasons where a team gets hot and they end up in that 8th position. Moana Pacifica win 3 games in a row, and all of a sudden they're in that 8th spot. So, yeah, I wanted to also, my second point was round 3 specifically. So, in round 1, the margin of victory, when we added them all up, was 110 points. So, 6 games, 110 points, just under 20 points per game, the margin of victory. So, about 18-ish. The round 2 was 151, obviously helped by a 51-point win for the Reds. In round 3, the margin of victory, 44 across all the games. So, that's pretty good, especially when you count that the Chiefs beat the Highlanders by 21, and so that's half of the points right there. We had some tight games, like you said, and I think there's so much... like I said, you could point out and you could take a shot. I took a shot with the Drua, said, like, you don't trust anyone when they go to the Fiji because it's going to be hard to win there. I think you could say and make an argument and a shot for any team, like, the Brumbies are just the most consistent team. And you go, well, it's not easy to go out to Perth. That's 2 teams that have gone out to Perth and lost now. Although they were close games, they've still 2 games at Perth. If the Reds start to spark, there's no stopping the Reds. They can put on 71 points. So you can make an argument for every team to win any game. Like, you could sit there and go, Moana Pacifica against the Chiefs, like say they were playing this week, you could make enough of an argument to go, Moana Pacifica could win this game. So I just thought that was a fantastic look for rugby for the 3rd round.
All right. Well, my second point is they're all. I think that we're all pretty similar in our points about what's been great about Super Rugby this year. My second point is that the New Zealand teams look mortal, and I put a caveat on here, but they still seem to have the edge over the Aussie teams, right? So, the Brumbies obviously got a great win over the Blues, but we've also seen the Hurricanes beat the Rebels, and I feel like I'm missing
the Reds.
Sorry, beat the Reds. Sorry,
they beat the Reds as well. And the Rebels,
the Rebels and the Reds. So, but even then, against the Rebels, it was not as probably a big of a victory as the Hurricanes would have liked. And I think the Reds win was pretty significant. So
47-13. So yeah.
So, but still, in those, so New Zealand teams are 1 and 2, 2 and 1.
Well, New Zealand, I'm
you
New Zealander, so I'd say 2 and 1. You'd say 1 and 2 because you're.
Yes. No, because I forget. I was counting the Rebels win as a loss for the Hurricanes. Sorry. They are. New Zealand teams are 2 and 1 against Aussie teams, right? But the two victories against the Rebels and the Reds.
Yeah.
No, it's like it's tight. It's not what we saw 2-3 years ago. New Zealand teams never lose their game to an Australian team, right? These are genuine contests. I think New Zealand's been a little bit disappointing this year. I mean, some of the New Zealand teams have been a little bit disappointing. Apart from probably the Chiefs, I'd say the rest of the New Zealand competition, in terms of the standard that they hold themselves to, they still look very good. But New Zealand rugby holds itself to a standard of what we saw. Was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where they didn't drop a single game to an Australian team? That's the standard they hold themselves to.
Well,
right?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sitting here going to disagree with you. And I recently just dropped the 5 worst moments in Wallabies history on our YouTube, and the 40-game losing streak was in there for the Super Rugby teams. I think this is the more realistic world, though.
Yes,
like New Zealand rugby isn't as good as it was during that period. Like that was our golden generation of rugby. Like we were unbeatable up until 2019. Like it was just, you bet the All Blacks or you bet a Super Rugby team, it was impressive because that's how good New Zealand rugby was. So I see what you say, and I don't disagree that they are looking more mortal. It's just, I think we are more mortal. I think there's and I actually had a nightmare the other night, thinking about who's going to play first 5 after Richie Mo'unga and Bowden Barrett and D-Mac go, because they're all similar age, and there's Aidan Morgan coming through, but there's not a lot where I was like, gave me a like, we're going to win multiple World Cups with this guy leading us. So
welcome to my life. Yeah,
searching for a first 5, my friend.
Yeah. Look, it's the whole. It's basically like dating. You're searching for a 10 and you just can't find one.
There you go. You're gonna have to
just wait to see if I get attacked with a knife here in a second. It's just no. It is. I think you're right. It is more realistic, but I think New Zealand rugby, like New Zealand fans, will probably be thinking, what's happened, and I think we, with quite a constant view of rugby, know what's happening. Aging players, people moving on to greener pastures, getting more money and things like that. But it makes for more exciting Super Rugby, which is why I like it, right? And it's not to say that New Zealand teams are bad by any means. That's why I think and why I'm saying is the New Zealand teams look more mortal. I don't think the Australian teams have improved that significantly, though. I think they have improved, particularly the Brumbies, but I don't think they've improved such a step that it could account for the full narrowing of the skill gap between the teams now. I think it's a combination of both the Australian teams improving and the New Zealand teams just sort of aging and just taking that little half step back.
100%. Couldn't agree more. My final thing that stood out from the first 3 rounds, I've got 4 players' names here, 2 Australian, 2 New Zealander that have really stood up for me. And you could put the whole Drua team in there for the way they played. But Bobby Valentini has played probably, kept just his form up from last year, is an absolute menace in the number 6 jersey for...
He's so young as well. He's only 24.
He is ridiculous. So I can see big things for him. Another young player who's putting his stamp on, I think, the fullback position is Jordan Petaia. He has been outstanding for the Reds. Every single statistical game, even in that Hurricanes loss, he ran for like over 90 metres in every game. He's breaking in 2 tackles at least every game.
It's good to and look, he's a player that I think has suffered from too much talent, and no one's been sure what to do with him.
Yeah.
And he just needs someone to say, "You're a center, you're a fullback, you're a wing," and just play him
play
there.
rugby. Just
like,
play
because
rugby.
he's still young. Exactly. Like, he was 19 when he made his debut, I think, and it's just been so much uncertainty for him. He's only 22 now, right? Turning 21. Oh, tomorrow, actually. Tomorrow's his birthday. There you go. How about that?
Happy birthday, Jordan.
Yeah. Happy birthday, man. And look, yeah, it's what we want. We want someone to put that stamp on the fullback position. We need someone to just be a fullback, right?
Yep.
We just need, and that's what he needs, I think, as well, is just to be an outside center, be a winger, be a fullback. Pick one, or tell your coaches, what position am I? I'm playing there, right? I know when you're young, you want to do everything you can to get on the field, anything you can for your team, things like that. But at some point, it's better for your team to put your foot down when you know what's best for you, and you just can say, look, I am a fullback now. I think Eddie Jones will like that as well. When it comes time for looking for a Wallabies fullback, to see someone who is firmly a fullback, who is established as a fullback, and a sort of rotation of him and Reece Hodge, the older veteran Reece Hodge, the safety net of Reece Hodge, with his kicking game, and then the exciting attacking flair of Geordie Pataia is a good sort of 1-2 puncher, a good way that you can adjust your team during a World Cup year, playing to your strengths in the different games.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The two New Zealand names I have that are standing out for me, Sean Stevenson is the Jordan Pataia, I guess, of New Zealand rugby. Will Jordan is currently sitting out with migraine, so we wish him obviously the best luck to come back. But it opens the door for a player like Sean Stevenson to put his hand up, and boy, he's put his hand up. Was kind of like a mystery how he didn't get selected straight away into the All Blacks XV last year, made his way in. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets selected in the Rugby Championship or even the mid-year tests this year. We do a mid-year test, I think we are. So I would be surprised if he doesn't get selected in that, because if he keeps playing at this level. And Cam Roigard, the number 9 for the Hurricanes. Obviously, TJ Perenara has been the Hurricanes number 9 for a long time. And Cam Roigard played in the All Blacks XV last year and has put his hand up to dominate again. Finish us off with your last point for Super Rugby, Hugh Z.
Well, I've already talked about them at length, ad nauseum, some might say, but it bears repeating that the Rebels look like a top 8 team at the moment. We talked plenty about this. I won't go too far into it, but they're competing against the top teams in the competition. They obviously this week pulled out the win against the Waratahs. Last week, they had that very tight game against the Hurricanes. Which was great to see, only a 6-point loss there. And in the first week, I think they unfortunately dropped that game against the Force where they probably should have won. But the Rebels look like they can be a top 8 team this year. They look like they've got the pieces. They look like they're putting it together. I think similar to the Waratahs, they've got a couple of, fresh faces, a couple of new young pieces that still need some blooding, some experience. And I think they've actually adapted faster than the Waratahs to the new season, and their chemistry's flowing a bit quicker and a bit earlier this season as compared to the Tars. So for me, the sort of rise of the Rebels, in spite of their terrible chants they put out on Instagram, I would say, are looking good. So they might not sound good, but they're looking good anyway.
Shall we talk about the Six Nations now, my friend?
We shall.
Yeah, look, I've been highly critical. I have been highly critical of a French team that I didn't think were very good. I can't say that I still don't think they're very good, because they put probably one of the most dominant displays in Six Nations history on the English and absolutely crushed them 53-10. Now, there's not a lot that scares me in the rugby world being a New Zealand All Blacks fan.
Yeah.
But one thing does scare me, and that's Jonathan Dante, the number 12 for the French, because he's been out for most of the season or the Six Nations. I think this was his first game back, and he put on a clinic along many of the players there, and I just sat there and was like, I couldn't believe what I woke up to, what I watched. The capitulation of England.
Usually it's the French surrendering, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the memes that came out about Eddie Jones leaving, like, obviously, like, it's just, I don't know what you say as an English supporter, like, where do you go from
We
here?
fucked up. Eddie, please come back. Leaving 99 voicemails. You know, just like, we could treat you better, I swear.
Yeah, I sat there and I mean, you picked them to win the comp, so you owe every rugby pundit an apology.
Yeah, look, I mean, far out. I was wrong. I was super wrong. I thought the English were going to have some spine. You know, I thought they were going to have a bit of pride, but far out, I couldn't be more wrong.
They just rolled over.
They just, you know, they're making all these jokes about France all throughout history. 100 years war, mate, in it. You know, fucking Creasy and Agincourt, mate. We had to save you lot in World War II, all that. And you get fucking destroyed like this. Like, how embarrassing. 53 points to 10. Like, far out, mate. And in your whole Super Rugby Six Nations campaign, all right, although they look at like a bottom 8 Super Rugby team right now, you know, lost to Scotland, right? Yeah. You know, bloody William Wallace is rising from the grave to be very happy about that and take revenge on the English, right? You know, somewhat beat an Italian team, you know, only 17 points there against Italy, bottom team in the competition, right? Only beat Wales by 10. Wales, who are having one of the most horrific years in their rugby history, where they had a players' strike. They've got a new coach coming in. Their front row has an average age of 75. You know, like it's you should have put more than 10 points on them, and then to get absolutely railed by France. So let me do some quick maths here, right? Let me do some quick maths here. Okay, so it's 10 plus 17. All right, yeah. So the two games that they've won by 27 points. They just lost by 43 points and lost by they lost by 43 points in that game. So nearly, well, I say nearly, it's bad maths, but nearly double their victory margin in their loss margin alone in that game. Like, that's just horrendous. And in fact, let me do some more quick maths here, right? So 23 plus 30. Oh no. Well, yeah. So they scored as many points in 2 games as France put on them in 1. That is pretty bad. So look, yeah, I apologize to the other Six Nations teams, and England. I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt you can't really make much excuses for this performance, and I don't know where it goes from here. Is the only issue.
Makes Australia's decision to pick up Eddie Jones look that much better. So it inspires a little bit more confidence in me.
Yeah,
looks like gold.
It's just disbelief.
Green and gold, mate. Green and gold, mate.
So yes, the French absolutely destroy the English. The Wales win the battle of the spoon, I guess you could say, beating Italy. We both kind of predicted this at the start of the Six Nations, thinking that Wales would be too strong for Italy over a much improved Italian side. Yeah. But I think Italy will be bitterly disappointed because that was their opportunity to take out one of the top teams, and they probably let it slip. Yeah,
they had a really strong opening week against France. Even against their performances against England and Ireland were nothing to sniff at. And I think, this is probably their most disappointing one of the season. You know, a 12-point loss to Wales after losing by 14 to Ireland, losing by 17 to England, and losing by 5 to France. So given some of the Welsh performances this year, you would have thought that it would be a bit closer than that. I think even if it was a close game, the Italians probably would be a little bit happier. But given the result, it's just sort of it almost feels like all of the effort they've put in this year has really come to nothing. Like, this was the opportunity to win a game. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And then Ireland march on towards glory, as I predicted, a Grand Slam. England, the only ones that can stop them, and England couldn't stop the French from putting 50 on them. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see an Irish win next week and a Grand Slam.
Yeah, no, it is very, very, as we said before, disappointing for England, but very positive sides for Ireland, who you've had big raps for this entire year. Your number one team, I believe, this year.
Yeah, totally.
So, look, it makes sense. Did you call them for a Grand Slam?
I did, my friend. I just saw what was happening. I saw they had the home games. I saw the ability they had. And I just knew that was going to happen. I knew France couldn't go into Ireland and beat France, just like England isn't going to go into Ireland and beat England. Beat Ireland, because it's just not going to happen. Like, this Irish team's just too good. Scotland couldn't even do it. And I think, Scotland might have played at home. So I saw all these games, and I felt like an Irish Grand Slam was the easy choice, realistically.
Think you might be right. Anyway,
often the way it is, my friend.
All right, sure. Look, yeah, it's a great campaign from the Irish and a team to fear heading into the World Cup.
Definitely. That's the two big tournaments going on right now. What I will say is April 1st, me and Husey will be doing a live stream of that Waratahs versus Brumbies game in Canberra in the Sports Booth Studios. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel for that, because we are great commentators. No
Absolutely.
lies. Stand sport, eat your heart out. But other than that, one hell of a round up the Drua.
Yes.
Silver, baby. And we will see you all next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Peace.